Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I am going to be talking you through how I organize my documents, including planner stuff. So when I go through organizing my papers, there are really two big questions that I ask myself. For each document or each paper that I pick up, I ask myself the first question, which is there something that I want to do? Is there an action with this particular document? And then the second question is, if there is something that I'm wanting to do, or even if there's not something I want to do I need to keep this particular document long term? Now, I'm going to go ahead and start off by setting up a box. You can see here that says paperwork. I am in the process of moving, so this is really just my chance to go ahead and get everything ready for the move to my new house. And so again, for all of my documents, I ask the question, is there an action and do I need to keep this item long term? So I am going through all the things on my desk. You can see here that I've got planners, all sorts of stuff, but this one planner is something I do want to keep long term. There's not really an action to it. It's just a place where I store planners. So I'm going to go ahead and move that onto its shelf. But each document or each item that I touch, I ask myself the same question. Is there an action? That's the first question. The second question is, do I need to keep it long term? Now, for the first question, is there an action? There's really two answers, right? The answer is going to be either no, which means that it needs to go into storage, or two, the answer is yes, and that means that I need to be able to have a place for it to go. And so with the first question, is there an action? I basically split everything into those yes or no piles. So again, if it's a no, that means it goes into storage. If it's a yes, I need to do something with that particular document, then I'm going to go ahead and put it in a place where I can, just have it ready to have the item done. And so you'll see me do kind of all of this with some of these things. Now, just to kind of talk you through what I've got on my desk, all of these things are pretty much Sophia's artwork. And if I ask myself the question, is there an action here? The answer is yes. I do want to be able to keep these items kind of as a quick scan through it. I want to be able to make sure that I pick out the ones that I want to keep long term for her. And so I'm not going to make those decisions right this second. I'm just going to go ahead and decide that yes, I do want to make a decision for it. But in order to have it be off of my desk, I'm going to put it in this box, this paperwork number 4 box that I put together just a few seconds ago. And so all of these papers that come from Sophia's school and all the artwork that she has, I do want to be able to make a decision at some point with what to do with it. And I'm going to go through all of these things and designate a spot for it. The spot right at this moment, it was on my desk, but now I'm going to move it into this box just to clear off my desk. And I'm going to go through all of the documents. I have others, you can see back here, there's well, of course, this is a planner. This is Sophia's planner. The question, is there an action? No, not really. I mean, it's her current planner. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it into its spot, which is in my Happy Planner too. But I just go through every single item, asking myself the exact same question. Is there an item, or sorry, is there an action, and where do I want to put it? Regardless of whether the answer is yes or no, every item, whether it needs to be actioned on or have a task attached to it, or if it doesn't, it needs to go somewhere. Now I'm going through this pile right here. These are some artwork, and I'm going to go ahead and make a decision here with some of these things. And for most of these items, I decide to just go ahead and toss them. I'm not going to keep them long term. I blurred this out, but this is actually something that I do need to have action on. I need to write down that date. And so there's some other artwork in here at the very bottom that I do want to keep. So I got rid of some and I am keeping some. So again, if it's something that I want to keep long term or there's an action on it, I go ahead and store it. And if there's stuff that doesn't have an action on it and I don't want to keep it long term, then I just pretty much put it into recycling. And so that's pretty much my process. You'll see me store stuff into this box. This is pretty much my giant Sunday basket. This is the term that a lot of organizers use for the things that I need to go through once in a week at least in order to just make sure that I'm performing all of the actions on here. Now, I have mentioned in previous videos that I have a ton of organizing, old paperwork and things like that to do. And so with all of this old paperwork, that just pretty much means that I have multiple boxes. You notice that I put paperwork number 4 on here. This is the 4th of these giant boxes. These boxes, or this box that I'm working on right now, is actually the most current box. And so I have older boxes that are kind of in my space. So with that being said, though, make sure that you have a spot for everything. Make sure that you are designating a spot to store everything, and make sure that you put things where they belong. Even if it's something that you want to perform an action on, I do make sure that I separate things that have an action on it versus things that need to go directly into my planner, and things that need to be like kind of sorted through later. I have spots for all of those things. Now, this right here is my sticker book. Well, not my sticker book, my sticky notes and washi book. And I actually have an action on that. I am trying to like get rid of the drawer of sticky notes that I have in here. And so, yeah, I just want to be able to like clean out that particular drawer. And so I have this book on the side just to be able to do that, right? And so again, just have a spot for everything. Make sure that you know where things go and have a spot for everything as you do things. Here are all of my July notes for what I'm doing for the entire month of July. And what I'm doing is going through here and just making sure that I add a bunch of the like actionable things on there. The one that I just put in there off camera is that one blurred out notice that I had for July 16th. So I stuck that in there. And I'm going through some of these other files that I have a little bit off camera just because some of it's like private information. But here I have like some notes and some things like that that I'm pulling off and just sticking it where it belongs, right? There's still actions that I need to perform. Now you'll notice here that because I am a planner, I want to have a lot of my notes ready with me in my planner system. And so I have right here my big planner, and I'm going to go through all of this paperwork right here and make a decision on where they belong in my planner. So you'll see that come up in just a second. I have one last pile to sort through, and then I'll be pretty much done with at least the initial sort. Again, I don't try to like go through and like deep dive into each individual document. I just make a quick decision on whether it has an action or not. And so yeah, that's kind of how I sort really quickly. One thing that I do that's a little bit different, I think, is that I do separate things into its like appropriate planners, since I am a planner. And so I do have a lot of notes that belong to my planner, and then I have a lot of notes that belong to Sophia's planner or her memory book. And so I do make a separation between those things. And so I have right here, all of the stuff that belongs to my planner, and then in that box was all the stuff that belonged to Sophia. Okay, now it's time to store everything into my planner. I have my ARC punch just because it is much quicker than my Happy Planner punch, but I'm going to go ahead and go through and sort through all of these documents and put them into my planner. Now, when I store these papers, I do have a couple of tips here. First, I like to put everything in chronological order. So if there's a document that is meant to be, you know, on a certain week or during a certain day, then I will stick it in there. And so this is actually my June planner, my June Franken planner. It also has July, but you saw earlier that my July planner is pretty much on the clipboard just because this is getting so full, right? And so I'm going through and basically punching in all the documents. Some items I do punch and some I don't, but I'm putting it pretty much loosely. It's mostly in chronological order already. And I do know it's in chronological order just because that's how I drop papers onto a pile. And so all of these things are in chronological order already. And so I just punch it and put it in here. Now, for me, my system is pretty messy, and I don't think that it works for everyone. So I do have a couple of tips. Of course, first tip is just keep everything chronological. It makes sense like that to me. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can certainly keep things alphabetical or whatever other system works for you. But I personally like to have all of my planner notes in like basically two major categories. It's going to be in my actual planner, like on a planner page or on the weekly, daily pages. And it's going to be in that section, or it's going to be in the second section, which is a notes section. And so for me, when I have like action items like tasks, I want it to be on my planner somewhere, and so I can look at those things. But then if I have things that I want to do something with, or I haven't really thought about what I need to do with it, then I'm going to put it into a notes section. So all of these things that I'm kind of punching in right now is going into this notes section. I'm going through, just punching it, putting it in chronological order, and I will make a decision on what to do with it later. Now, just to kind of give you a little bit of insight behind the scenes for how I do things, I do like to try to scan everything, especially like financial documents, things like that. You see here a couple of like blurred items. These are financial documents. I do like to scan these things just because like having physical copies of it is not really necessary for me. But I also, you know, just like to like have redundancy. Like I think it's really important, especially with like more important documents like financial documents, taxes, all the important documents you can think of. I like to have like multiple copies of it. So I do keep the physical copy in my home binder, and I also keep the digital copy. So I do scan most of these papers. And so again, I'm just going through and punching it, and putting it there. Now, the other tip that I have is like, again, like I like to keep things chronological, tip one. The second tip is to just kind of split it into like tasks versus notes that I need to do something with. I think those are like kind of my two big sections. But then my third tip is really to make sure that I review all of these sections regularly. So I go through and actually clean up the entire planner at some point. Again, this is my June planner, so I'm going to go through and clean up the entire thing at some point, and make sure that I am pulling out all the tasks from these things, like if there's something that I actually wanted to do with it. If it's just scanning it and putting it away before I like file the physical document, then that's one thing, but there's some other documents, normally it's not actually like a document that I keep like sitting in a pile, but I normally will like go ahead and like write the task list down, but sometimes I don't. And so I want to make sure that if there's a task involved, that's not just scanning it and like archiving it, but if there's some other task involved, that I put it into my planner. Just write it down that I want to do something with it. Like I might, for example, need to RSVP, or I need to buy tickets, I need to X, Y, and Z. So whatever the task is, I do write that into my planner. Again, some of these things I just need to like put into the place that they belong. And so I'm just going to put them in chronological order and just get through the entire pile by putting them where they belong. And again, all of this is my paperwork, all the things that I'm putting into my planner system. I do separate my stuff from Sophia's stuff, and Sophia's stuff ended up in that giant box that you saw at the beginning of the video. Now, this system works well enough for me, but obviously there's some things that are like imperfect. I am looking through this pile and I have notes from like March and April. So obviously that's like way dated information. I also have like 3 boxes of old paperwork from like, I mean, I was able to like kind of flip through really quickly and I found stuff from like 2008, which is like ages ago, right? So this is obviously not a perfect system, but it's the system that has been working well enough for me that I have continued to use it. And so again, I just put things chronologically. I do try to separate notes from the actual planner / tasks items, and I do go in here regularly and try to clean it up, even though there are some like very old notes, very old being like from March and April in this planner. Even though this is meant to be my June Franken planner, it still has like old notes in it, but I do try to clean it up as regularly as possible. So yeah, at this point I have just a small pile of things to get through. Just make sure that I am putting it all in here, and that's pretty much it, right? Now, once I like make a decision, like when I actually sit down to like do stuff with this paperwork, I do ask myself again the same question: is there an actionable item? Do I need to write down a task in my planner? And do I need to store this long term? So right now I'm just kind of quickly putting it chronological, but some of these documents do need to go into my home binder or into like important documents, like the system that I have for that. And some of this I just want to like have a digital copy of it, and so I just scan it and put it into my digital copy, and throw away the physical files. And then some of this like I am keeping just for short term, like just for like a month or two, and I'm just going to toss it. Like here I have like Sophia's pre-kindergarten diploma. That's something I want to make a decision on what to do with. I think I'm going to put that into a picture frame, you know, so all of these things are like decisions I need to make, and so I want it to be in my planner, so I make decisions on these things just because I need to decide what to do with all of these things, right? And so again, have a place for all of these things so that way you look at it regularly enough to be able to make these decisions. And again, my system might not work for everyone. It is not something that works perfectly for me at all times, but I still think that it works well enough for me that it makes sense for me to just basically store all papers together if at all possible. My desk was a mess of like paperwork and everything else, but I was able to split it up into Sophia's stuff and into my stuff. All of my stuff ended up fitting in perfectly in either my June Franken planner or my July like clipboard planner. That's kind of my system for right now. And so everything's in its spot, and I just love being able to do that. So like June stuff in this deluxe cover, July documents and notes and everything else on this clipboard, and I'm just ready to get going. Now, I've mentioned multiple times like long-term storage. So once I like scan a document and decide I want to keep the physical copy, I actually go through and put it into my home binders usually. So the first section here is About Us, which is basically vital documents. Then I have a section that's medical. I have a section here that is car. So I love this divider, it's so cute, right? And then I have a section that is home, which is basically like the deed, mortgage, that kind of thing. Then these just came with the budget pack. So chores and meal plans. So I put them in here. They're not really necessarily like vital documents or important documents, but I do have budget where I put basically all of my financial documents. And then I have projects, which is basically house projects, warranties, inventories, that kind of thing. And I have two other sections here: travel, which is like some kind of mini travel journaling type stuff, and then contacts. So I feel like those are important. This one is like only one file I feel like is super important. So I have a fun section. Then I have beauty, which is just my own personal thing. Then I have a planner section, and then this very last tab, which is unlabeled, is education. So this is the one that I feel like is super important, not flipping through it just because there's like documents in there. But for all of these like home binder sections, the way that I organize things is pretty much by alphabetizing everything. So just to show you this, am flipping through my fun section. So this is my 440. Then I have a section here that's Disney. And so it's all the Disney stuff. And once it's in a section like Disney, for example, then it's pretty much just chronological. And it's like either chronological or alphabetical, but I do loosely try to like keep everything alphabetized and then like keep it chronological. So here you can see it's going to be in alphabetical order. So Cinderella, then Frozen, then we're going to have the Little Mermaid. And then we have a section here that's like Sophia the First and Elena of Avalor, which I pretty much put as Sophia the First. Then that was all the Disney stuff. Then I have my Game of Thrones, which is a G. And so I have several notes related to Game of Thrones. Then I have my Handmaid's Tale, which is an H, so like it's just going to be in alphabetical order. So I'm just flipping through this just to kind of show you that like the way that I organize is like loosely by alphabetical order, and then it's going to be in chronological order within like that one alphabetical category or subcategory. So all of my, for example, Legend of Zelda stuff is like in it's alpha within the category of fun, and then it's like put into chronological order after that. So hopefully that makes sense. I feel like, again, like my system just takes a little bit of time to explain, but I hope this video makes sense and you can kind of see what I have here. A lot of these files, in this fun section, it's not necessary for me to have redundancy. For some of the other sections, I really do like to have a digital copy as well as the physical copy. And for my physical copy, I put it in the order you can see here with like where it's alphabetized and in chronological order, and some mixture of those things. For my digital files, I do the same thing. The category is going to be like the same category essentially that I use for my home binder, and I want it to be the same. So the same basic categories are what I use on my digital system, and so I have a medical file, education file, all of the same files, categories exist on my digital like system, and I just make scans of it, and like physical copies are digitized, so that way I have that as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it made sense. I think my organizational system is so like personal to me that sometimes it's kind of hard to follow it, but I hope it did make sense. Ask any questions if you have it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, and until the next video, bye guys.